Hello, everyone in YouTube community. This is not a comic book post exactly, but it is magazine and art related. There's a lot of this is going to be a post about men's adventure magazines from the 50s and the early 60s. They were put out. They're mostly like stories, like a pulp magazine, but it has some amazing art on the covers. People like Earl Noreen and Basil Gorgas from Warren Magazine and Marvel magazines did a lot of art for these kind of magazines. And some of the magazines are very cool. I found out about these magazines on a Facebook group, and later on did some research and started collecting some. Eventually, I will get them slabbed. There's many popular cover types that are very collectible. Number one is the man versus animal covers, followed by westerns, and followed by headlight with Nazis. So this is an example of one I got. They are actually more fragile than Golden Age comic books. The paper quality kind of sucks. So they're very hard to find in decent condition. But some of these are in pretty good shape considering they're from the 50s. But and here's an example of a Western. I mean, the art on these covers are just amazing. Here's another example. This is a very popular man versus animal cover. I don't know if this could ever happen in real life, but I can't rule it out. And of course, they actually had zombies back in the 50s too. That's a very sought after one. And this is another animal versus man cover. That's what's got me into these, is this the artwork on the covers. Then also I had picked up it's a book all about this genre of magazines. So I guess there's a lot of collectors out there. This is a great reference book if any one of you ever want to get into collecting these as well. I do recommend this book. I got it cheap on eBay. It's hardcover. It's nice. It is fully illustrated with pictures all through, and articles about the stories. And this, the holy grail of these magazines is this is the cover picture of it's a man's life cover. And the story is called Weasels Ripped My Flesh. That's the holy grail of these books. Very hard to find. I've never seen one in the wild, but that is the hardest one to get. Now this cover, I don't know, this cover for some reason, this looks like this looks familiar, like a reprint or a cover swipe of something. I'm not really sure, but it looks very familiar. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but it looks very familiar, like I've seen it before somewhere. And I got this cover. That's a really hard one to find also, and very desirable. That's almost as sought after as Weasels Rip My Flesh. It's an incredible cover. Now, This was the first one I ever got. This is a very high grade too for this issue. That's on the bag, not on the comic book. This is probably going to be in 8.0 or higher, because it is from the 50s. So I just like that cover a lot. And now I've read some of these stories inside, and I'll never open and read one of these again. They are incredibly fragile. I opened one, it was intact, cover was attached, turned one page, cover popped off. So they are incredibly fragile. And combination of animal attacking man and Western. Now, these magazines back in the 50s were considered some of the stuff, more of the Nazi women issues were very risque. And some of the stories in some of these are pretty risque for the 50s also, but most of it is sports hunting oriented. But the cover art is just incredible. Now, another thing I notice about these books, a lot of people kind of like the way old comic books smell. Not these. These reek. I don't know what kind of paper it is compared to comic book paper. It must be some kind of newsprint that's maybe cheaper, but without exception, every one of these things stink to high heaven. When you change the bag out and everything, it was like, oh, lordy. I'm not even sure that's a real animal on that one. And most of these are not too expensive. They range anywhere from, you can get some for $20 to some under $100 still for a really good condition one. Some of them might be a little more expensive. This was a nice horror one, that True Weird. It's kind of like a horror men's adventure magazine. It's also a very sought after cover. I love the old pulp style paintings. And well, that's it for those. And like I said, I will eventually get them slabbed. They're magazine size, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. Just hope they don't get damaged. But definitely, if you're interested in doing any research on these, grab this book. It's really, I mean, also another popular genre is the military ones. And let's see. Oh, there's a picture of the one that the cover fell off. Yay! Yeah, the art is just incredible, and that's what I'm buying for, the cover art. And being a magazine collector, I think it would be amiss not to have a selection of these in my collection. as an archivist. But, well, I hope I didn't bore anyone with this post. I hope everyone's having a great night. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. And good night.